share with you some of my photographs and paintings from east to west. I'm very fascinated by the concept of the east and west as a metaphor for how we can get to a sense of unity. I actually think really why I do what I do is I'm wanting to break down the illusion of separateness. You know, we have to try in this world find a way to aim for a language of unity. So the corpus callosum is this bridge. Literally it means a sort of giant body, a colossal body. And it is the bridge that links the left and the right hemispheres of the brain. It links the rational side of our nature with our emotional side. And I think this is a lovely metaphor for the journey that I'm going to share with you over the next hour on the Silk Route. Because for me the Silk Route is this dance between east and west and everything in between. And in a sense the merchant has a lot in common with the artist, because we're trading ideas, culture, arts, and of course stuff. This was a photograph I took in Turkey a few years back, dancing under the Cassiopeia. And we have some whirling dervish here. The Sufis are interesting because they still exist in large parts of the Islamic world, but they aren't as abundant as they once were. But also what's interesting is when you study the early Quaker movement, when they moved from England in the 17th and 18th century to the United States, the Shakers actually took on many different, many similar experiences and did these whirling dervishes. So even though you have a whirling dervish here in Turkey, you have it also in the United States. I think there are many ways that we can get close to the sense of the sacred. So I lived for about a month with the Al-Rashidi tribe in the Arabian desert. And that's Venus to the right and Jupiter to the left. And it's incredible when you're in this part of the world, especially what's happened in the last five years, that you know, when you're there surrounded by this beauty, and it's a harsh beauty, but it's beautiful nonetheless, you sort of everything else dissolves and you find the unity. Yeah, I mean, it is incredible to be under the stars. I've never seen such a canopy of stars. I mean, at the same time, when I'm upstate, the stars are pretty impressive as well. So for me, I'm trying to show you a different side of the Middle East, which often isn't explored that much today with all the heated politics. The next slide is interesting. I shot this in Saudi Arabia last year. The Arabian horse is fascinating. It's bred slightly different from the other horses. It's got a concave head and it's much finer proportions. And here's a Saudi farmer just training one of his horses as the sun goes down. Again, it's a very different side to what we think of as Saudi life today. I photographed it in Kuwait. As you can see on the left, there's an approaching sandstorm on its way. I love this, the dust, the light kicking up, a sense of foreboding. And I photographed this, I think, a year before the Arab Spring started. It was a very interesting time for what ensued. Yeah, I also like the archetypal symbolism of something like this. I mean, to a lot of people still in the world, we see this very much as the warrior, but I see it more as a pioneer. There's a sense of sacred masculinity in this. Because there's a sensitivity, I feel, with the way he's juxtaposed with his beast, and there's that symbiotic relationship. So going back to the notion of the East to West, I always remember when Hegel said it's thesis, antithesis, synthesis. I like the idea of we're always trying to find the blend in between, and I think that's where the healing starts. So this is, if you like, an example of the sacred masculine. And the next image is a painting I did, a watercolor gouache. It's the same metaphor of the sacred masculine on his horse, in this case with a mosque in the background. And then the next one is of a lady in the Middle East, and that obviously represents the sacred feminine. And also, this is an important piece for me, and I think for all of us, because it shows the intention of where we want to go. As man becomes more sensitive and woman more assertive, hopefully we'll have a little bit more balance in the 21st century, not just through the genders, but also through the whole political, I mean that with a small p, the sense of how we actually conduct civic society. How do we actually raise our children? And man has to find his feminine, emotional part of his nature as much as woman has to rediscover her assertive, rational, masculine side of her nature. And of course, by doing that, it doesn't negate the fact that the woman ceases to become a woman or a man ceases to become a man. I think we have to separate gender with sexuality in that sense. The next image is actually quite interesting because it's of a bull camel with his two Bedouin outside one of the largest oil refineries in the world. This oil refinery we actually all drunk from. It was one of the first oil refineries dug in the late 1940s. And when you see it from the desert at night, it looks like a city. It lights up. And this sort of luminescence, I can only call it, it's almost like a photophorescence of when the oil comes up and I'm not a scientist, but the leftover oil vapor comes up and it creates this amazing light. It's almost like what's it called, the aurora borealis.
Yeah, the aurora borealis.
Yeah, it's similar to that. And I love this juxtaposition between the old and the new, between the urban and the rural.